This is for the 3 minutes.
Recording in progress.
Okay. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the October meeting of the County Redevelopment Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Since there's no minutes to approve, we'd like to get to the economic area development portion of the agenda. Mr. Fotia.
The first item here would be the fund balances for all of our funds as of September 30th, 2023. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
Okay, hearing none.
Motion to approve?
We approve these. Is there a second?
Second.
Sure.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Good morning. So the next several items are going to be professional service agreements, all of these relating in one way or the other to the GM Samsung SDI project out in the New Carlisle Economic Development area. So we'll start with the first professional service agreement. This is a professional service agreement with DLZ Incorporated for the IEC lift station, force main, and water main project. As part of the project for the GM site, we have two lift stations that will need to be addressed. One that is at Larison, just to the northeast of the GM site. Another one is farther down the network on Smilax Road between the train tracks and Edison. The Smilax lift station is one that will need to be addressed at a point in the future. We don't necessarily need to make the improvements for the GM project, but we're going to start the process because we know that there's some other things going on, and so we need to start the process with it. The Larison lift station, however, needs to be addressed and will need to be addressed immediately. It was built small because it was built for R&L carriers, so it was built really for kind of a single user at the corner of Fillmore and Larison. So this station needs to be improved and upgraded. So the proposal before you today is the actual design and construction documentation for lift station A, which would be Larison. And then what we're asking to do, we split the Smilax lift station proposal into two parts. Part one is preliminary design. Part two would be final design. There is on the proposal documentation a Division C, which is a new lift station south of State Road 2, and that would be in the event that we have a future project south of State Road 2. At this point in time, we're not going to do anything with Division C. So what we'll do is ask you to approve Division A and Division B Part 1. The total amount of that work is $1,292,000. Again, this would be to DLZ Incorporated, and if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them. There is a representative from DLZ here that could address any of the DLZ issues if that's necessary.
Are there any questions? Joe?
How long do you think that'll take?
They've got to be out to bid for the Larison project after the first of the year, so it will be a very short, very condensed time period to get this work done. We've got to have that lift station operational by mid next year, so mid 2024. So we're going to be in a position here real soon that we may have to start ordering some specialized parts and pieces, much like we were doing some of these sole source procurement items. There may be some of those that'll come down the line sooner rather than later, just because we know that the lead times are pretty long on some of those items.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The second professional service proposal is related to the upgrade and the construction documentation for the SJEC water treatment plant, what we call Water Treatment Plant Project Phase 2. So Phase 1 was when the project was originally built. Phase 2 will be the expansion of the facility to provide the water service needs for the GM project. Phase 3 would then be a future expansion to service other projects in the IEC area. So again, this is a professional service proposal with DLZ. Total amount of this proposal for design service Services is $1,345,000. Again, this is work that we've got to have this piece of the project operational by December 2024. So there's a very short time on this. So the construction documentation will happen very quickly. We'll be out to bid, and so we'll be under construction on this again by early 2024. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Pyle?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item in your packet, again, related to the water treatment plant project, is the sole source procurement of filter valves and actuators. These are, so at our last meeting, we went through a sole source procurement to buy the actual filters to expand the water plant. So as part of phase two, we're gonna have to expand and add new filter equipment to the plant. This is kind of the next piece of this. We need to acquire 36 control valves with electronic actuators, 6 air release valves, 6 air release isolation valves, 3 magnetic flow meters, and startup services related to the installation of the 3 horizontal pressure filters that were purchased at the last meeting. All of this equipment is the same company's equipment, same type of equipment that exists in phase one of the project. So the reason we're going through the sole source procurement one is because it meets the requirements of the facility. And number two, there's long lead items on all of these items, so we want to get these items procured now so that when we go to construction, we have this stuff on hand so that we can do the actual construction. So the amount of this project for all of this equipment that will need to be purchased as part of this is $423,116. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Hearing no, oh, go ahead, Joe.
This is a DLZ purchases, though?
So it's a direct purchase with Gas Voda and Associates. So it'll be, DLZ has coordinated this as part of their design, but this will be direct purchase with Gas Voda.
But then the county owns it.
We're acquiring for the project, and yeah.
Is there I'm just not accustomed to the designing and engineers being in the purchasing side of equipment. Is that common?
Not necessarily. I mean, generally they would, generally a contractor would design the project, it would all go out to bid, it would all be part of a project. Because this is an expansion of an existing facility, and because the water plant is a little more specific than maybe a highway garage or some other type of generalized structure, we're trying to buy equipment that matches the equipment already in the facility. So that's why this is being done a little differently. And again, because of the timelines on the project.
Okay. But the facilities wouldn't be purchasing this stuff themselves, or?
Well, if the water treatment plant was doing the upgrade, in this particular case, we're doing the water treatment upgrades in coordination with the town of New Carlisle.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Pyle?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next professional service proposal is a proposal from Peerless Midwest Incorporated. So when the St. Joe Energy Center water treatment plant was built originally back in 2016, 2017, it was built as a non-potable water treatment plant. And so a non-potable water treatment plant means basically you can't drink the water that comes out of the water treatment plant. It can't be used for commercial and residential type uses. So what we're looking to do is, in a way to maximize the water systems that we have out in the New Carlisle area, is convert this water facility from a non-potable plant to a potable plant. And so the potable plant then allows us, because of the way this facility was built, to have a tremendous amount of capacity in this facility that will allow us to provide water not only for SJEC, the Energy Center project, but also for the GM project and then future projects. project. So it will set us up in a real good position for a long period of time to give us the water we need for the area. So the Peerless Midwest project does a couple of things. One, it creates a water system management plan. So in the state of Indiana, anytime you convert a non-potable plant or create a new water system plant, you have to have a water system management plan. A water system management plan talks about O&M for the facility, the operations of the facility, the budgets related to the facility, and then how the water will be used within the network system at which it'll service the area. So that's kind of the first piece of this, is the water system management plan. The second piece is then an analysis and permitting for additional wells that'll be required as part of the project. One of the things that we have to do as part of the conversion from non-potable to potable is move one of the water wells that's located, that services the existing energy center site. It's too close to the lagoons that are on the site, so IDEM has requested that we close the water well and move it to a new location. So we're gonna have to move the water well and come up with a new location for the water well, as well as identify and permit additional water well locations. So all of that is contained within this Peerless Midwest proposal, and they'll continue to do this work. They're doing this work in coordination with Donahue and Associates, DLZ, and all of the other teams, as well as the town of New Carlisle. The proposal is a not-to-exceed amount of $46,000, and staff would request your approval of this proposal, please.
The only question I have is, was there some back and forth on the necessity to do this and where these people were coming from and all that kind of thing?
To do this work
Yeah,
specifically?
well, you're saying they're asking us to quit a well that we have,
Right.
and was there some interaction on that and some discussion about that?
Yeah, so we've had a great working relationship with IDEM, and IDEM is the controlling agent that will determine if we can go from potable to non-potable, or non-potable to potable, but also have had them up on site. They were up on site last week, did a site tour of not only this facility, but also the town's existing water treatment plant facility, because we have upgrades that'll have to be done at that facility at some point. So IDEM has been a real good partner with us as we started looking at this project and working through the things. So they've been very specific and really have been very creative with us on reducing our impacts and requirements as we move forward on this project.
So you consider it a necessity and you've worked through it with them?
Yeah, absolutely. And from a,
You know, I mean, I question when other units tell us, you know, we got to get rid of something that's cost us a lot of money and
Right.
spend a lot of money on something else, so.
Yeah, so one of the benefits of this project, again, is looking bigger picture. So we've got two water treatment plants, one that's been this newer plant, one that's an older plant. So the ability to make more we made a command point decision that really here, this was the most strategic place to do these improvements. We socialized the concept with a number of agencies, looked at different ways to make this project happen in the best way possible. And so making these decisions and these funding choices here at this facility, rather than at a point when we have the growth needs, we'll work on the other water treatment plant. But here, and again, working with IDEM and working with all the other agencies, this has really been the best way to do this and make this project.
So that's the opinion of your organization?
It is, and really from a cost, well, it's not only my decision, but from DLZ and Donahue and Lawson Fisher, representatives in the town of New Carlisle, everybody's looked at this. This is the most efficient way to do this. And from a limited budget that we have on a GM project, we've got to make the most efficient decisions with how we make all these improvements that need to be done with the project, and so this is the best way to do that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So this proposal and the next proposal are actually just more clerical than anything else, and so they're net zero as far as cost. This first proposal is a contract that we've had with the Lockmuller Group for a couple of years, since November of 2020. The original scope of work was to do two things. It was design a fiber line within the town of New Carlisle, so the town loop project, and then it was also to start doing a series of studies and traffic studies and design work as they're related to the 2 and Larison intersection. This work has been done, but we've changed the scope a couple of times along the way, just, so we've got a contract. We're still doing work within kind of the general goalpost, if you will, of the project. But the way Lockmuir's budgeting system works, anytime we start spending money out of a different line, it needs to be adjusted, so it's just kind of righting the ship, if you will. So again, they are asking to kind of rebalance the books, if you will, on their project. It's a net zero amendment to us, and so we would just ask for your approval to help with this, please.
Am I understanding right, it's just kind of reallocating where
It
the money
is,
goes?
yeah, yep. So just taking the existing money within the contract and just moving it around.
Questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no other questions, Mr. Garrett?
A motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So this next and last professional service proposal under this section is, again, a contract with GM, or with Lockmuir Group. Again, rebalancing an existing contract. Earlier this year, we did a contract with Lockmuir to do intersection improvements at 2 and Larison. And so the concept was, we were gonna design improvements on 2 and Larison and go out to bid this year to start making some basic improvements, making a acceleration lane and deceleration lane on the westbound traffic lane, and then doing some minor improvements on the southbound as it would connect into Strawberry Road, and then also doing intersection improvements at the crossover at 2 and Larison. The state of Indiana next year, 2024, will do a repaving project from the bypass and 2 all the way to the 220 intersection over in LaPorte. And so that whole section was gonna be resurfaced and redone. Part of the concern the state had is if we did these improvements, then they'd end up coming back and tearing up a bunch of them when they paved. So what we've done is we've designed the improvements, we've started right-of-way acquisition with GM for the improvements that'll have to be done, and then all of these improvements will be made next year when the state is doing the repaving, so that we can get those improvements done at that time. Part of the concern was if, again, we would spend money to have it pulled out and torn out, and then the other side of that was, then there was this issue of if we did it, and then the state had a different crew did it, who would do the long-term maintenance? There's always one of these cases where one contractor's pointing at the other contractor if there's deficiencies. So we thought it was just easier to do it all as part of the 220 project, or the State Road 2 project next year in 2024. So again, reallocating funds to take those funds and prep more for the work that needs to be done over the course of the winter to get us ready to do that project. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution 2023-12.
This resolution will authorize the redevelopment commission to appropriate funds so that 56120 Larison can be purchased by the Board of Commissioners. The land will be used to help facilitate future development within the IAC. Once the property is purchased, staff will solicit quotes to demolish the residential home on the property. The estimated cost to purchase this property, along with the 10 acres, is $301,350. Staff requests approval of Resolution 2023-112.
Is the potential seller came to us interested?
That is correct.
Correct. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second? Thank you, Joe.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So before Terry does the next item, there had been a resolution 2023-13 that had been on the agenda. It was the declaratory resolution to amend the New Carlisle Economic Development Area Plan. That item is going to be, we've pulled it off the agenda as this is a revised agenda. It'll actually be an agenda item for a special meeting this Friday at 9 o'clock. We've got documentation that still needs to be assembled, and we wanted to do it right instead of doing it, giving you a partial version and trying to cram it through, so. So that item will be heard, and we'll talk about the special meeting at the end of the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2023-14. This will authorize the Redevelopment Commission to appropriate funds to purchase 14390 Douglas Road by the Board of Commissioners. The land will be used to help facilitate future road improvements on Douglas Road from the Mishawaka city limits to Capitol Avenue. Once the property is purchased, staff will solicit quotes to demolish the residential home on the property. The cost to purchase this property is $151,650. Staff request approval of the Resolution 2023-14, very similar to what we talked about earlier with Larison. We previously purchased and demolished homes on either side of this property. Shortly thereafter, the demolition of the two properties on either side, this property owner became a very willing seller.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any
Motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Gopel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the interim joint defense and cost-sharing agreement. This is a resolution that's been prepared by outside counsel, and I guess by way of a little history, many years ago, the AM General property out on McKinley Avenue, where they currently are making the Hummers, soon will be making the JLTVs, used to make other vehicles, and I think specifically it was a company that made buses on the site. As part of the work they did on the site, they specifically, I think the action that has caused this work was dipping bumpers and turning them into chrome bumpers. The waste material was left on site, was put on site, and over a period of years leached off of the site. And so over a number of years, we've been working with a number of parties, and specifically, this joint defense and cost-sharing agreement is with Mullen Automotive. Mullen Automotive is, we own a piece of property where the parking lot is adjacent to Mullen Automotive. Mullen Automotive was where they were making the H2 vehicles a number of years ago. But we are a joint partner in a defense case against the environmental on the site. The group that does the environmental review does a great job, does testing in the whole area. We're trying to figure out where the spread of the chemicals have gone. Looks like they're really going south and southwest off the site, but because we're an adjacent property, we're considered within the zone of defense and zone of review. This agreement, if you choose to enter into it today, will have no cost to us. There appears to be no cost to the county as part of being, specifically the Redevelopment Commission. No cost to us as part of the defense. Again, we don't believe that there's any action that we need to do because anything's coming northeasterly off the site. But it's a process that we've been undertaking for a number of years, and so the case has just kind of reached that next point, and so this is just a document that would bind us to this process or tie us to this process. So, Phil, is there any additional?
Oh, I think you covered it. It allows the county and the redevelopment commission to efficiently mount a defense against the cases.
It doesn't tie us, though, to, should there be a financial implication that anyone who is party to it have to pay, would we also share in that?
It does not. That would be addressed through separate agreement.
Okay. All right. Any questions? No. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So the last we've got a new professional service agreement under the AM General Economic Development Area. This is a professional service agreement for the Northwest Trunk Sewer Project, conceptual design. So over the last couple of meetings, we've approved a contract to do a master plan for the Capitol Avenue corridor and basically look at an area from Capitol to the toll road, down to Day, and all the way east over to Buckeye. So a pretty robust area, about 3,000 acres to do a study area for that. That was a contract you approved with the Antero Group. We also improved a contract with Lawson Fisher to study Douglas Road. So not only improvements to Douglas Road, but ultimately then how we would develop a utility corridor in that area from the Mishawaka city limits over to Capitol Avenue. So it's kind of that next piece, how do you get road and traffic to the Capitol Avenue corridor, and then also get water specifically to that area, and maybe on a short-term sewer if needed. This is really the last piece of the study, and it really has become a little more critical as we have some prospects that are interested in that area, maybe sooner than we're ready for, actually. But the Northeast Trunk Sewer Project is a project that really has a long history that ties all the way back to the construction of Capitol Avenue. Back early, or I guess it was early in 2022, we did a study with the city of Mishawaka. We partnered on a study to look at this trunk sewer project to determine if it was still the most viable way to get sewer to that study area. Mishawaka had planned early on to extend utilities up into that corridor and actually constructed a lift station near the area between Jefferson and McKinley. That lift station ultimately connects into a sewer network that really it sits empty at this point in time because it's not connected to anything from the lift station all the way to the river, and then ultimately at some point that will then connect all the way into Mishawaka's water treatment plant. There's some work downstream that has to be done. The Mishawaka is looking at as part of all this work. But this lift station project and force main that would take the force main from basically Jefferson, McKinley, all the way north to Douglas is a key and essential element to economic development on the east and northeast side of the county. So what we're asking for your approval today is a contract with Lawson Fisher to start working on this design corridor for this project. The 30% or the conceptual design is really 30% drawings. So it gets us to a point where we have survey documents and we have right-of-way and understanding of right-of-way that needs to be acquired for the force main. Starts on the construction plans and everything. The schedule in the proposal would put it out to about July of next year to get us through the 30% plan project. We anticipate that that's a long time lead. We think the work is going to be done a lot sooner than that. But the total amount of the project is $359,600. This is within the budget to the AM General EDA. We think this is a huge and important piece to really move the east side of the county forward, not only for commercial and industrial development, but also opportunities to extend utilities to residential development in that area south of the toll road. So staff would request your approval of this proposal, please.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, there she is, way in the back. Well, I'd be happy to cover this last agenda item. We've asked Abby Wiles, the Executive Director of the Area Plan Commission, to come talk about this item.
All right. Good morning, Abby Wiles, APC Director. Before you is an additional services scope for the St. Joe County Comprehensive Plan. Public outreach and drafting was very extensive in the first few phases of the process. We've been at it since the summer of 2021. But throughout the course of the planning process, we welcomed a lot of new elected officials, a lot of new board members, a couple of you, including new members on area plan and board of zoning appeals. And then we've had a number of projects announced. So we need to be sure that before we move forward with any draft plan, that the current leadership is comfortable with the vision and the goals in the plan, and that the plan meets our needs for the projects that we've announced, including housing needs and other needs that will support the projects. So before you is additional services, specifically for public outreach and engagement. We have meetings with our elected officials, a joint work session with Area Plan, Board of Zoning Appeals, and yourselves. Additional outreach with stakeholder groups that were very active in the planning process, such as the builders and the Farm Bureau. And then another round of public meetings, 2 in person and 1 virtual that would be broad-based. So I would ask for your support and happy to answer any questions.
Just as an additional comment, I would say we've looked at our budget. We feel that this is an important piece of documentation that needs to be done, and especially with all the projects going on, not only in the IEC, but the Capitol Avenue corridor, the new lodge at Potato Creek. All these projects are just kind of happening at the same time, all projects of scale. The comp plan really needs to address those. The current comp plan does not include the Capitol Avenue corridor, because in 2002, Capitol Avenue didn't go all the way from north to south. It didn't address the casino development area, certainly didn't address the IEC or some of these other areas. So we've got a comp plan that's extremely deficient today. We can't use the comp plan we have today. We really need to make some updates and get us into a position. The other thing too, one of the major requirements of House Bill 1005, the new residential housing bill, is the first item on the list says have a current comp plan. And so, again, if we want to even start to go down that road, we need to get this process resolved. So a lot of input, and I credit Abby and her team for all the work they've done on this. Again, we have money within our budget to do this, and would just ask for your support of this. I think there's some others that may also be online to speak in favor of this. Perhaps.
Then again,
Maybe we did such, oh, there we go.
Hi, Allison Herzig, South Bend Regional Chamber Director of Economic Development. Just following up on Abby and Bill's comments, we, the Chamber, feel this is very important work moving forward. We've made some great progress so far and are excited to see the final public opinions and stakeholder meetings come to fruition.
all right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? No.
What's the format of those public meetings? What do they include?
We're still determining what the exact format will be at the end, but our format in other meetings has been like a presentation from the consultant on some of like our current data or statistics like population, housing, income, and then an opportunity for engagement. And at the end, kind of like a wrap-up. I would think that we would follow a similar format, but it would probably be tweaked a little bit because we'd be coming out with the draft and soliciting input on that.
Thank you.
So as you wind up for each of these meetings, how does the public kind of get up to speed in preparation for a meeting? Is there a source? Is there a single source of information where they can go in?
We have a project website
Okay.
for the comprehensive plan that we would be posting all the draft materials to.
And then it seems like our comp plan is evolving quickly. So is there a plan to make this kind of an annual thing to update our overall plan?
Sure, the best practice is to review your comprehensive plan annually and use it as kind of like the work plan or the guide for staff. Comp plans are recommended to be updated at least on a 10-year basis, but some communities do them every 5 years. Like parks plans are required to be updated every 5 years.
Is the thought that we'd include Northwest Cleveland, the University Notre Dame north to the state line, South Shore going to the airport, so all those, I mean, because there's so much happening, I assume that those would be included.
And I think that's part of the reason why we've taken kind of a step back, looked at what we had to date, and then I think as we've taken that pause, there's a lot of these projects that have really started to flush them out over the last 6 months, or several months, I should say. So I think it's just a matter of just trying to get caught up with all those, making sure that the recommendations in the land use maps or the recommendations in some of the pillars match with some of the projects that we want to see move forward.
Is it within the, pardon me, because I am still a little bit new at this, but is it within the rules that we can have more discussions amongst the different governing bodies, whether it be the commissioners and the council and the board, where we have the opportunity to discuss? Because I personally get, calls from individuals saying, constituencies saying they're concerned about this or what's going on here. And it still seems a little bit disjointed. And I think it's because everything's moving so fast and there's so much opportunity here. What is the possibility of that?
Yeah, and I think some of it is, whether it's within our own bodies or within working with the council or commissioners, I think there certainly is more opportunity to do that. Obviously, the role of the redevelopment commission is one piece of it, but certainly is a pretty dynamic piece with everything going on. But certainly we could work to schedule more coordination within those different bodies. So.
And I'm saying there's a problem. It just seems like there's a lot of moving parts here. And
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. There certainly is an opportunity. And I will say that certainly within the leadership of the bodies now, we have a lot of communication, but, we can always have more communication, so.
I don't think it entirely answers your question, but one thing that Bill and I are proposing for this round, and I said it previously, but is a joint work session for area plan, area board of zoning appeals, and redevelopment commission. So we'll notice it as one big public meeting and have all three boards meet together to address kind of what you're talking about.
Great idea.
Good.
Thank you. Any other questions? So the proposal is to $96,000 allocation to assist in getting the plan updated. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Before we get into the public comment section, I would like to note at the bottom of the agenda, it says next meeting dates. And so again, we'd like to schedule the special meeting for 9 o'clock this Friday in this room to deal specifically with the New Carlisle Economic Development Area plan amendment, but also there might be an additional item or two that are added onto that related to some other projects that are moving. But, so we'd have that, and our regular next meeting would be November 14th.
We move to the public comment. If anyone would like to speak, first in person and from online, please step up to the podium, name, address, and 3-minute time limit.
Morning, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. I really just have some questions and some comments on what just went on here. The Larison Road property, hopefully I can get some answers to these. The Larison Road property shows that it was, the land value is $91,000. The improved value, meaning the house on it, any structures on it, $63,000. But we pay $300,000 for the property. I know we're flushing money. We got money coming out our ears, but why are we paying double what the value says here? Issue number 2. The improvements on State Road 2, I'm glad they're going to repave the whole thing, but I'm not the only one. Other people in town have quit using the State Road 2 and Timothy Crossing. It is a nightmare. It is way worse than the Larison and State Road 2, and particularly since it's a school bus road. The buses carrying our kids have to cross that intersection, and it is a nightmare. And the third issue I have is with the water treatment facility, the improvements being made with TIF dollars that are made up of funds that were withheld from the local entities. The town side, I guess there's a industrial side and there's a town side where the supplies come, and there will be an improvement to both sides. So the improvements are being made with the money that was originally intended for the local entities but withheld, which caused a reassessment of my property tax. And now I understand with that new improved facility for the town side, we're going to see some rate increases. To me, that's double taxation. You took money out of what I was paying to the local entities, withheld it there, and now you're coming saying, we're going to improve it, and then we're going to charge you more. I don't think this is fair. I'm fine with my water the way it is. Just leave our side of the plant alone, and we don't need higher bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online who'd like to speak? I don't see any. Okay. In that case, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Pyle?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
We are adjourned.